ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of the Cherryfield house building fireside chat. Now, in part 1, I told you about the bait. I told you how S called me up and told me there is an urgency in me responding by sending money to purchase these 50 sheets of plyboard. And I also told you that he came up with a story as to why he did not get the plyboard. Now, S3 has a different story. So let me fill you in. So, needless to say, I was speechless when I got this news from S1. I'm sorry, from S2. So I hung up the phone and I decided to call S3. Being S3 is so close to me, and I have been dealing with S3 from he was a little child. I thought that S3 would have some loyalty and would care about me. So I called him up, and he had a different story from S2. According to S3, the story S2 told me is not how the story really goes. And according to S3, they pulled up and they started to speak with the guy that worked at the hardware. And while they were talking to him, the owner of the store came out, and the owner wanted to, see the receipt that was for the amount of plyboard. And so the owner took the receipt and he said, "Oh, we don't have all this amount of plyboard. We are going to have to, get some more plyboard for it, because there's another store in Linstead where they are taking some of the surplus material from the store that's going to be closed, and they're going to go to that store to get the rest of the plyboard." But yes, the worker was eventually arrested because the owner accused him of doing some back deal with plyboard, and a long story. So according to S3, he called up his buddy, which is the same police officer that S2 had called, and the buddy had the car that was being sold to the worker from the hardware, if you're following me. That buddy had the car at S3's mother's home. So S3 is going to take the car to S2's home, and they're going to keep it there. This is what his police buddy told him to do. And then the police buddy, being he's a police, he had gone to the station and he told the worker of the hardware that he is not going to get the car until he returns S3's aunt's money. And so the worker that locked up in jail agreed with the police officer that, okay, he will pay back the money as soon as he gets bail. And S3 is going to make sure that the money is collected. And according to S3, S1, remember S1 in the beginning? S1 that had the truck that I told S2 not to use him because he was a shady person? Well, here is where I'm learning that S1 is involved in the deal. S1 is the person that introduced them to the worker at the store. So this is where all the complication starts. So in a long run, I could not, when I heard the different story that S3 gave me, I was trying to get S2 to say, well, S3 said it's a different thing that happened from what you told me. Well, S2 would not take any more calls from me. He shut down his phone. He's not answering me anymore. So the next thing I had to do, I suspected that something was going on fishy. So I decided, I asked for the name of the hardware, which I did ask S2. And he was fidgeting around. He didn't remember the name. And I said, how you knew about this hardware? Now, there's a hardware that's local in my area where I live that I used to deal with. And S2 is the one that introduced me to that hardware. So now S2 had told me that he knew about the hardware in Vanity Fair that was going out of business because the hardware that's local had told him about it. So being I know the person at the local hardware, I called him up to find out, did he know about this hardware and what's the name and can I get the number and so on. Well, to my surprise, the local hardware owner said to me, no, he doesn't know about the hardware. It is S2 that introduced him to the hardware and told him that, okay, this other hardware is selling out their inventory for half price. So you could go there and buy some of those cheap inventory and still bring it back to your store and make a profit. And according to the local hardware owner, he was kind of sold and he was going to, see about it. Anyway, I couldn't get the name of the hardware. I got about 3 different names of hardware. And when I called them up, they had no clue about any transaction. They did not have any incidents and it wasn't them. So I decided, I had a Jamaica telephone directory here in the States. And so I went through the telephone directory, and that's how I came about with the name of the business that was at that location. Now, the business had 2 locations. They have one that was closed, that they sold the property to build a highway, and they had a location further up in Linstead on King Street. So I'm going to reserve what happened when I contacted that hardware. So needless to say, the three the three bingo players, I don't want to use the term that is the correct term because YouTube might flag those terms. Needless to say, the three musketeers, S1, S2, and S3, they had planned to commit a fraud on me. That's pretty much what it is. They bingoed big time because they took the money and split it between all three of themselves. And S2 was calling when they saw that fraud that went through. S2 became very excited, so he was pulling another one on me when he told me that the hardware had steel, because what he was doing is trying to get more money out of me. So that is where the big all is. And later on, in part 3, I will tell you of the complete bust, how I busted them and what happened. So in the next video, I'll go into that. So stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for part 3, where I'll tell you about the big bingo bag that burst right open. They were busted.